This conference will now be recorded.
Hello?
Hello, Steve.
Hello?
We can hear you. Can you hear us?
Okay. I can. Yeah, I know I guess rarely I'm a little bit early. I guess we got to wait a minute here. Got a full agenda today. In fact, I think that is the highest number of items since I've been on the board, 16. Okay, then it's 11:30. Thad, can we just take a quick roll here? Because we don't call me if we don't have a quorum. Okay, I can barely hear whoever just spoke.
I just spoke. Can you hear me clearly or not?
I can hear you okay. It's like there's some speakerphones going that make it tougher.
Gotcha. Katrina, make sure you're recording, and if everybody else will mute, we'll let Mr. Shirey start us up.
Yeah, except do we have a quorum? Is everybody here? Bernard, you here?
I'm here.
Okay, I can hear you well. Candy. Candy? Okay. Brenda. Are you with us, Brenda?
Brenda texted me and said she's trying to call in, so I don't know. It shows Candy is present too.
Candy, are you here? Okay. Maybe, Candy, do you have your phone muted? Okay, Jim, are you with us?
I'm here.
Okay, Craig? Are you with us, Craig? Okay, Paul?
I'm here.
Okay, then...
Hey, Stuart, this is Candy. I'm here. I messed up my screen. Sorry about that.
Okay, not a problem. All right, then we certainly have a quorum. Then we'll call the meeting to order then of the Type A EDC at 11:32.
Stuart, Brenda also just logged in. Brenda, are you with us? I can see her on my
Brenda?
screen, but I can't hear her.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Yes.
Okay, all right, I'm here.
Okay, so make sure. So we have Bernard, Candy, Brenda, Jim. Craig's not with us, and we have Paul. Okay.
Okay, so we'll have one alternate voting in Craig's place. No, I'm sorry, Craig is the alternate, my bad.
That's right. Okay, then let's go ahead and get started then. Virtual meeting past practices has been on here for a while. Please be sure your microphone is muted when you first join the meeting, and as well as when you're not speaking to cut down on white noise. Participants should be recognized by the chair to speak, state their name and address prior to speaking. During the video conference meeting, for the purpose of the chat function, is to have a list of chairmen recognize each speaker for communicating to avoid technical difficulties. However, I think as we've mentioned, I'm not on the Zoom call, so I don't have access to the chat function. So Katrina, if you will let me know if someone wants to speak, then just give me a prompt and then we'll allow that person, okay?
Certainly.
All right, item number 3, discuss and consider an act to excuse board member absences, if any. Item number 4, items of community interest, and then there are 2, actually 3. Memorial Day virtual event is scheduled. I believe there's a brochure in here on that. Also, the city offices and Haslet Public Library will be closed on Monday in observance of Memorial Day. And then I know everybody has a brochure on the Haslet Fire Department will host their annual kids camp on June 5th, 2021. All right, item number 5. Discuss and consider an act regarding COVID issues, future EDC meeting format, location, and procedures. Thad?
Yes, sir. And Craig Scotty has also now logged in. Katrina, and you may be able to help me, is Paul and Craig are 2 alternates? Because we have a full boat on Type A, and I think that it's
You're
Craig
correct.
and Paul. Okay, so again, gentlemen, please, y'all feel free to ask questions as we're on the items if you have them, but as after the motion, y'all will not vote. So I just want to make sure everybody's clear. This will be easier, hopefully, next meeting.
Good, thank you.
Actually, P&Z last night had a write-up, but I didn't have it and I didn't include it. Council has set a June 1 date as the full reopen of City Hall and allowed each board to decide whether or not it wants to go back in person. Now we have policies in place. If y'all do vote to go back in person, as long as there is a quorum in the facility, there is the option with advance notice, at least, for remote login, because the meetings going forward are to be held in the council chambers. We will no longer be using the boardroom. That is now a council workroom. So I'll answer any questions, but again, the purpose is City Hall is normal hours starting June 1. And again, I know most boards have been looking to get back in person, but they wanted to give y'all that option to make that decision as long as it's still legally viable by the state. So that's ask questions as you may.
I think it'll be an improvement.
And this is an action item. So again, if you will, if y'all decide one direction, if you can make a motion for that and go through the roll call, please.
This is Candy.
Okay,
This is Candy. I make a motion to move the meetings to an open session as of June 1st.
okay, this is Stuart.
This is Jim.
I
I'll
will
second
second that. Okay, so Jim, you would, okay, then I'll vote yes for it. Bernard?
Yes.
Okay. Brenda,
Yes.
Paul,
I can't vote, can I?
No,
I thought, oh, that's right. That's right. That's
No,
right.
Paul
Okay.
and-
So then,
I know, it'll be easier when we're in person.
okay. All right. Then that passes. Then it's unanimous. Okay, Thad, I believe you'd mentioned that Scotty had joined and wanted to address the board.
No, sir. I just wanted to let you know that he was on the call. Craig, did you need to? I didn't know if you had something to say. I thought you were just checking in.
Yeah, this is Craig, and I was just saying hello, and I heard what you said, that about not voting today.
Okay,
So
got it.
Yeah.
Okay, discuss then item number 6 then. Discuss and consider an act to approve the meeting minutes from April 28th, 2001.
This is Candy. I'll make a motion to pass the meeting, rather the minutes as presented.
This is Stuart. I'll second that. Bernard?
I'm in favor.
Brenda? Brenda?
Oh, I
Jim?
agree.
Okay. Jim?
Agree.
All right, then that's unanimous. Item number 7, discuss and consider an act regarding the financial statements from April 2021 financial report.
If you look at page 12 of your packet, you see that our sales tax collections are extremely strong still through this, just over half of the budget year. We did have some expenditures related to the groundbreaking, as well as the right-of-way acquisition process for Haslet Parkway. Your next financials will show big changes because we're always about a month behind. The construction funds for Haslet Parkway have been taken out of the budget, and as well as a huge portion of the bond proceeds. We have sent $8.1 million to TxDOT as our portion of the project's advanced funding agreement. As again, I've been talking about that for a long time, and we finally got that executed with council. So that money will be not showing up on your next financials. One thing that I was able to do, y'all know I'm pretty tight with money. Under the utility relocation, that $150,000, we don't expect to use it. I convinced TxDOT that when we paid with the bond funds for the gas line lowering, that should count as part of our match, and they agreed. So that should be available for you at the end of the year to roll back in, unless y'all want to do something else with it. I'll answer any questions you may have.
Good job on that.
Y'all know I'm cheap with your money.
I can make a motion if you're ready.
Okay, then I'll second that.
Now I make a motion that we approve the financial report as presented.
Okay, and that's Jim?
That's Jim.
Okay, then I'll second that. I'm sorry, I couldn't hear for just a second. Something got an issue with the line here today. Okay, I'll second that. Then Bernard?
I'm for it.
Candy?
I agree.
Brenda? Brenda? Let me ask you this real quick. Can anybody else hear Brenda? Because I'm having some problems with the
I
phone
can
line
see
today
her
for some
on.
reason.
I can see her on, but her mic is off currently. So I'm not sure if she's having connection issues or something else going on, but it shows she's still
Okay.
logged in. It's not showing anything as far as trying to speak.
Okay, well then is the correct protocol with the 4 votes that we have and then 1, I guess, abstaining, is that carry the motion, or do in this case we go into alternate 1 for a vote if she's on but we can't find her, understand her position on it?
No, that would, it passes
Hold on
4 with 1 disconnect.
1 second.
Okay.
Okay, she said the call went dead on her, so,
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah, I'm having some issues today too. Sorry about that, folks.
It seemed to get worse as we went on somehow.
Okay. Well, you know what? Let's get through this today, and then next month we'll be in person again. That'll clear this up. Okay. Item number 8. Hold a public hearing, discussion, and consider to act to adopt the tap lighting project as an economic development project eligible for funding.
All right, I will start with your staff presentation. After our last month's meeting, I had to get with city attorney and city secretary to discuss the proper protocol. This is being brought forward just because there was no official action taken up or down or to remove it from the agenda last time. So again, the reason you're seeing this again is not staff trying to push something or even type B trying to push something. They did approve half of funding, I think, for the, which one was it, Katrina?
They approved the tennis courts and they tabled this one.
And so type B tabled this one. And again, they had the knowledge that I was going to have to bring it back because of the way it was handled last time. I just was not prepared to discuss all of it. And I've got Robert's rules in front of me now. So again, this is here. Any questions you may have, it's the same information. We do have Barbara Long from the Parks Board here to answer questions if you have them. I think Travis is on the call as well, but since you've heard it and seen it, we really would just prefer to answer questions. And again, I'm in 2017, City Council, the statute is written such that City Council, as long as you have a Type B corporation, you can give the Type A corporation the powers to take on Type B projects as long as they hold public hearings. So we have met all of those legal standards. Whether or not you choose to advance this or adopt it as a project is up to this board. I just want y'all to be comfortable that we have followed the law as written, and as well as council's guidance that this is an legal eligible project, but you get to decide. So if y'all have any questions, you can ask here during the presentation, but really I'd rather you save it till after the public hearing if that's okay.
Okay, then do we want to go ahead and proceed with the staff presentation then, or just let the information that we had previously ride? I have a thought on that.
And I was going to let it ride. I mean, all the information was there. I was going to ask if you would just open the public hearing, see if there's anyone to speak, and if not, then y'all can go into discussion. And I'm available.
Got it then.
As long as.
Okay, then under item 8.2, then at 11:46, then we'll open the public hearing for comment. Is there anybody on the line that would like to speak regarding this topic?
No one is in chat, and we have recognized all people who are on the call, Stuart. So I think you can say that there was no one here to speak and close it.
Okay. Then at 8:47, we will then close the public hearing under 8.2 and then move on to discussion in 8.3. Let me add just a little bit to what Thad had suggested. And you know what? I'm going to punt most of this to next month when we're together. But I know that there was I guess, a little bit of, I'll say, confusion regarding the barn authority as our discussion from last month. And I'm aware, and our board members are probably aware, that the controller's website lists the requirement that a Type A board has an election before they can assume Type B use projects. And that is actually, if you go to the controller's website, that is clearly in the statute with regard to the information provided from the website. However, that information on the controller's website is dated because that's a law that was passed in '97 by the 75th legislature. And at the bottom of the controller's website, it directs anyone, before you use this information, to please consult the information from the Attorney General's Economic Development Handbook. And if you go to the AG's Economic Development Handbook that you can find online, it's published by the Texas Municipal League and has contributions from lawyers as well as the governor's office and the treasurer's office and the AG's office. On page 16, there is an updated amendment that was made in the 82nd legislative session in 2011 that created an exception. And the exception is for cities that have a population of 75,000 or less, 7,500 or less, and that the city had both a Type A and a Type B that had been approved by the voters. Then under those circumstances, there's a process that specifically says does not require an additional election. For Type A to have an ordinance read, 2 public hearings with the city council, and then they adopt a resolution, and then that resolution is adopted by our Type A board, which was done unanimously in 17, and then we then can adopt Type B use projects. And that this information is on the web. Also, if you go to westlaw.com, where the statute is, you can find the presentation that was originally made back in 2011 to the legislative committee as to the reasoning for that amendment, and it was simply this: smaller cities with Type B don't have the resources to deliver public works projects under the expanded uses of Type B by themselves. And so for these smaller communities, this amendment was to allow smaller cities to be able to deliver public works type projects. And in that presentation included libraries, community centers, parks. So, I recognize that there may be some other concerns that people have regarding just the use of our proceeds for B, and that is outside kind of what the legal requirements are. But as far as, I'd be happy to bring some copies of this information, but it'd be a lot easier to go through this in person than on a phone call. But I just wanted to address that. I agree with Tad. We did what we should have done at the advice of the council. Other cities that are smaller communities that have Type A and B do this. We're certainly not a front runner in the adoption of Type A, assuming Type B powers under that protocol. So, with that, on this actions item, as far as adopting this as a project, we still have discretion. Just because we can doesn't mean that we have to. And so, but as Thad said, these next 4 items, we just can't leave them with a first without voted. We either need a motion to not approve it, or we need at least a first and a second and then vote it down, or a motion to remove this from future agendas going forward so we can have finality on both of these items. So with that, is there a motion or any questions? Or Thad, do you have any other thoughts?
No, sir. I think you covered all of that quite well. Again, it's always, we want to make sure that everyone is comfortable first on the legal authority to do so, so then you can make that decision of whether or not you want to do this. Again, and if we don't take any action, either to approve or not approve or to remove it, it'll show up again next month. So y'all decide where y'all want to go.
I would also like to.
I'd like to restate my concerns from last time. Type A sales tax is primarily intended for manufacturing and industrial development. And it's our charter to create and retain primary jobs. This does not do that. Neither of these projects do. And I think it's we need to be focusing on our growth. I heard last at the P&Z meeting that our town's going to max out at 15,000 residents. We need to be looking at projects that will support that population and the needs that we have as a city.
Well, as with the last meeting, and I certainly respect Jim's position, I'm exactly on the other end. I think that in years down the road, whether the sewer line in the industrial park is 3 extra inches diameter because we kicked in isn't going to move the needle as far as the quality of life in our community. We have the power to do these projects together with B. Down the road, those types of projects will make a difference in the lifestyle of our communities and at somewhat of a discounted price to the constituents than if we did it with pure tax values, the cost of which is 100% burden on the city constituents, rather than whatever percentage of the sales tax revenues comes from bleed consumption from people who don't live within the city. And so, that's my feeling. So I need, unless we're going to do this every month, we need a motion so we can have some finality on this topic.
I have a question. This is Bernard.
Okay.
What would the total cost to type A be?
Sorry, I'm looking. I apologize. We're on
It's listed in the item.
Yeah, it's actually listed, Bernard, on the next item, because if you don't adopt this as a project, then you basically remove number 9 from the agenda. Right. The cost to type A would be $46,182.32 for the tap lighting.
Okay, what there on number 10, what about that 44,876?
That is for the tennis court. So again, the 46,000 is half the cost of the tap trail lighting, and the 44,876 is a portion. It's a half of the requested amount, but Parks Board is putting in all the money they have on tennis court. So that total project, Travis is on the line. He can tell us what that total project cost is. Are you still there, Travis?
Yes, I'm here. That is half the cost of the lights.
So if I understand it, type A be looking at a responsibility of about $90,000.
Yes, sir, approximately, for the 2 projects if they were both adopted and funded as put on the agenda.
I feel like Jim does. I'd rather us not get into a project like that.
Okay, well then let me ask you this. Is it Candy and Brenda? What are your thoughts on the matter?
I'm
Not
trying
to
to
put
get
you on
there.
the spot, but it's just the way it is.
I can't get there. Let's see here.
We can hear you, Brenda. You are on.
I mean, understand that if we participate or don't participate, the constituents' burden is still 0.5% or 0.5 cent sales tax. If we do, it's 0.5 cent. If we don't, it's 0.5 cent. And so the economics to everybody's consumption is unchanged. It's just what people get for it.
This is Candy. I know we were talking last month about where these lights were going to go, and it was going to go down Schoolhouse Road. I don't know if anybody's ever paid any attention, but we already have streetlights on Schoolhouse Road. So at this point in time, I don't think it's necessary to add any more lights because To me, it's a waste of money. I think in the long run, we can spend our monies wisely someplace else.
All right, this is Brenda. So I think the lights would be an asset to the community, really. I don't see how we can fund one of them and not the other. So I feel like we've got to do both or none. But as far as the lighting over there, I don't know where the street lights really, how they really help, because like last week, 2 of my catalytic converters got stolen at about 2 o'clock in the morning. And if you look at 2 o'clock in the morning, there's a lot of traffic on the road and it is dark. It is pitch black. So, I mean, it's not lit up really well. But I don't feel like we can do one of the projects and not the other. And I really don't agree with the tennis courts at all. I think they need to have volleyball and tennis. So that's my thoughts.
This is Barbara Long from the Parks Board, and so I'll speak to the lights on the trail now, and I'll speak to the tennis courts when we get to that. And I would just say that I think the lighting is like someone else mentioned, it's a safety issue, and so that's why that's being moved forward. Is we have this beautiful trail, but after dark, there's not any way I would walk on it without lighting. And so I'll just put that forward. So we hope you'll consider to help with that project.
We need a motion one way or the other, folks.
I'll make a motion to not adopt this project as a type A endeavor.
And who's that?
It's Jim.
Jim. Okay, then let's take the vote on this then.
This is Candy. I'll make a second to that motion.
Okay, Brenda?
I agree.
Brenda? Okay, Bernard?
I'm in favor of the motion.
Okay, I will vote no. The motion fails then. So then that negates Thad, as I'm understanding, number 9?
Yes, sir. Number 9, as the project was not adopted, then number 9 is moot. It will be removed from the future agendas.
Okay, well then let's move on to item number 10. Hold public hearing to discuss and consider an act to adopt the project for the addition of tennis courts at the community park as an economic development project eligible for funding. Do we need to, I guess?
Again, this one, now I understand if it's philosophical, I would agree that we should either pass both or neither, but only if it's philosophical to you. You do not have to vote up or down on either or both of them as one project. Just because you don't like one as much, you certainly have the authority to pass this one if you choose. But again, if it's a full philosophical, we don't want to be doing this, then certainly you can make the motion that direction. Again, I don't want to go over unless y'all want me to, or Travis. I think it's a waste of y'all's time and us just speaking to hear ourselves talk to go over that. But I will if you would like that. Is there a preference that we go through that again?
Is there anyone that would like the staff presentation? Okay, then item 10.2, then at 12:01, then I guess we need to open under 10.2, we need to open for public hearing and comment. Thad, is there anyone on the line?
12:01.
Right. Is there anybody online?
This is Barbara Long.
Yes.
So I'd like to speak as a citizen now, and I'll speak as Parks Board later in your discussion. But I've lived on Schreiber Drive since 2000, and this is a project that I've been working to have put into place since that time. And, you know, in the beginning, there was not funding anywhere. And so I went on the Parks Board to help that. And other projects have risen in the priority. For example, we were talking about doing tennis courts, volleyball courts, different kinds of combinations. For example, the park for all abilities of children, that was a greater priority for every one of us on the board. So I was willing to put that on hold to take care of that project first. And so we've done that. But so this has been long coming in the works. And it initially started out as a combination tennis and volleyball court, but we found that just didn't make sense to do a combined court for the two things because of the differences in the size of the courts and the difference in the kind of nets. And so what the Parks Board, and I'm kind of blending both as personal and that, what the Parks Board then came up with, because there is a great interest in both tennis and pickleball. There is a Facebook page of Haslet Area Pickleball, and it has over 90 members now. They're actually starting a league that's playing on the two temporary courts that are on the basketball courts, but that is really a growing sport. So know that the tennis courts are not just tennis courts, it's combination tennis and pickleball. And it's really time for that. Like was mentioned, the Parks Board has put every penny that's available to move that project forward because it's been on hold for so many years. The B group has already approved their part. And so as a citizen, I would like to ask each of you to consider this part of funding so this project can finally be available. Many of the tennis players that I know that live in the area, we've been having to drive to Keller to play on courts there or to Roanoke because the school courts are not as accessible to us. They're not accessible at all during the school day. And there are no courts in our area. So it is time and it's something that is inexpensive for tennis courts, for people just to buy an inexpensive racket at Walmart. Families can go out and play. I know I did that as a child with my family, and it's available to all ages. But it certainly is something that I would like to see supported by our community, and I can assure you that there are people out there just waiting and praying that this will finally happen. So that's my little spiel as a citizen that's of Haslet. So thank you for listening.
We have no one else on the chat, Mr. Shirey, and no other callers. So
okay. Yeah, Thad, let me ask you this: would it be appropriate for me to speak as a citizen, as a constituent too?
Yeah.
Okay, let's pass.
You have full discussion power, so I don't know. Now y'all tricked me the last two meetings of things I've never had to deal with.
Well, I'll tell you what.
Going forward.
Well, I know we're a board, and I'm only one vote, but this sentiment that has worked its way into our board happened during our time that we've been absent in person, and it caught me off guard as well. And and the thought that we paid for half a jogging trail and then get to the end and not light it, to me is a joke. That's a bad one. But if we don't need it, I'll appreciate that. I personally haven't walked on the trail at night, and I'm not for throwing dollars at things we don't need. But from a philosophical reason to have a shift like that, I think is bad policy. But I'm one vote, and certainly this is a board, and we'll move as a board. And so, is there any other discussion? I guess we need to close the public hearing then at let's see, 12:06. Close the public hearing. Then under item 10.3, is there any other discussion?
Well, this is Jim, and the same speech I had on the trail. I don't think it's appropriate use of our money. Second, I think there's an element of unfairness here of taking away a venue that was paid for by the taxpayers and used by a group of people, various groups of people, being the volleyball court. And we've paid for it, it's being used, and now we're going to take it away and fund a new project to sit on top of it. I think it's unfair.
I'll add that, you know what,
This is Barbara Long from the Parks Board. I don't know if you know the reason that is being done in that way. It's not that volleyball courts will never be put back, but our goal is to move them away from where they are because the sand has caused many problems for the city because kids are allowed to dump that sand into the water fountains and the things that are right there nearby. So we're hoping that if we move the sand volleyball court up into away from that maybe that damage would stop. And so that's why the tennis courts are being placed there in where the sand volleyball court is. And it's not that the volleyball courts would never appear, because the Parks Board would also like that to happen. So this is like step one. It's not going to be as expensive to put in a sand volleyball court. So that will be one of our next projects that we have on our to-do list. But we need some help in getting the tennis courts moving forward. And it's been approved by the Parks Board, by the City Council, by the Part B. So the piece that we're missing is the support here, because it is an investment, but it's a long-term investment. This is something that will be available to our community for 20 to 30 years. So it's not like something that's going to have to be updated. There are also groups in the area. There's the Keller area tennis courts that has a club that they often help small cities and towns and schools with providing the supplies that are needed. So I would be willing to work with that group to have additional benches put in, have replacement nets when that becomes available. Although I, as an individual citizen, would be willing to buy a net if that's needed down the road. So the Parks Board is just asking for, since it's possible, since it's legal for you to provide funding, we're asking that you do your part in supporting this project that has been very long in coming. So this is not something that is just a quick idea to spend money, but there's much interest in it, and it would have 2 tennis courts and 4 optional paint lines for pickleball as well. And I'm happy to answer any other questions that you might have about the project.
So Thad, has this been adopted formally by Type B as a project?
Yes, sir.
The funding has, or the actual project?
The project has, and on this one, is this the one that they actually approved half funding? Yes, they
Correct.
actually approved half funding. They had tabled the funding for the tap lighting, but they did adopt both projects and approved the funding of the 40, multiple pages here, I got those packets. $44,876.50. They approved that amount last month.
Okay.
Any other questions or discussion?
This is Candy. My question, and I'm not sure who to direct this to, but for a town of not quite 1,800 people, why do we need 2 tennis courts when we have that volleyball court that is being actively used? Yes, I understand there's problems with it. Number 1, why can't it be fixed? Number 2, do you realize it's costing us $10,000 to clean that up and then move it, I think that is wasteful spending. So I think it needs to be addressed in a different format totally. One tennis court is more than enough for a city of this size at the present time. And if we don't know how long it's going to take to get another volleyball court then in either.
Is there any other questions or discussion? All right, then let's move on to 10.4, consider an act on recommendation. So I need a motion.
I'll make the motion again that we do not approve this as a project for type A.
Okay, Bernard, you're for it?
I agree with Jim.
Okay, Candy.
I agree. We do not need it.
Brenda.
I agree.
I'll vote no. So then that negates number 11.
Yes, sir. 11 will be removed and not show up on your next agenda.
Item number 12, update on current HEDC activities.
I will start with Haslet Parkway. We did, as I mentioned earlier on the financials item, the AFA, the Advanced Funding Agreement Amendment 2 was approved. That money has been transferred. It'll show up during our next meeting on the financial reports. We are not expecting, other than the right-of-way acquisition, we are not expecting to put any more in. So again, we've tried to keep it as minimal as we can, and I'd rather use other people's money if possible. Phase 2 right-of-way, and again, to make sure everybody's on the same page, this is all one project. It's been let. We had our construction meeting yesterday at 4:15, and they're asking if we're going to meet our December deadline. We have until December 31st of this year to close on 100% of the right-of-way needed to finish the project. There was a management plan agreed to, so it's not a phase 1 is complete and then they come back later in a couple of years and finish phase 2. It is not that kind of phasing. It is simply the way we met our deadlines for the build grant is we had to start in the open fields where we knew we could get the right-of-way dedicated, and then we started working the other end of the project. During April, Council did pass Resolution 006/2021 and authorize the use of eminent domain proceedings as necessary. We're working hard to negotiate. We'd rather avoid all of the eminent domains filings if possible. We already know that's not possible. We've had one of the people on the southwest corner of 156, one of those businesses said, go ahead and file. They're going to make us do eminent domain. So that's the process there. We are still on track to meet the management plan. We are not expecting any delays in that process, but it is something that we have to be aware of, as Zachary will charge the city and its partners for missing those deadlines. It delays their work. They'll charge idle equipment charges, as well as just charges against the contract. So that's just something to be aware of as we move forward. And then also the groundbreaking, that was on April 29th. We ended up with 70 people. We did have safety protocols in place. It was nice to hear Michael Morris and some of the others talk about how long this project had been out there. You know, at one time it was a 500-foot right-of-way, extension of 170 state highway where the city would have no control. But that's not what we have. So that was trying to find the balance between what fit with Haslet and what created that mobility they'd been looking for, and that's how we ended up with this project. That's really all I have. The construction is running out of Travis's office. I can include his reports going forward on construction, but our part is really focused on right-of-way. We're pretty much done. His reports are provided to council once a month. If you want those, you can probably get them there too. So just let me know your preference going forward. As far as yes,
This is Jim. Recently we got this newsletter from the superintendent NISD that says they've been working with Matt Krause and Michael Morris and BNSF to separate the roadway at Avondale Haslet from the tracks. Isn't that essentially our phase 2 on the Parkway? And how's that all going to work?
No, sir. Our project did not have the funding or time to look at grade separation. So ours is at grade all the way through. The discussions that they're having, and again, I was on a part of one conference call. I got called in late. I was unaware it was happening. And there is a drive regionally to grade separate. The issue there that we have to monitor as a community, I think the push would be to fully grade separate. That will not be great for the Four Corners. If you fully grade separate with a bridge and you cross 156 and the railroad tracks and Schoolhouse Road, and it makes it extremely difficult for people to get to those businesses, that will not be great for the corners.
Right.
If they don't fully grade separate, if you look at a combined situation where you have a bridge that allows for traffic to flow through, but you also have roads at grade crossing, I don't know what the support would be regionally to fund that. But again, these were so preliminary, but and I haven't seen the newsletter you're talking about, Jim. If you forward that, it'd be great.
Yeah,
but again, those are the things we're monitoring locally. It would have to come after this project. They can't touch this project until it's done because of the federal funding. They can design, they can engineer, but they cannot come in and do anything different than what is in our plans and our environmental assessment. So the plans that are out there and approved and available, that's what's being built. And again, that's all at grade. So again, the talk there, what I heard was after this project is fully completed, that they would come back in and look at a separation. And again, I haven't seen preliminary drawings, schematics, or even a detail on whether that is a full grade separation.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it just begs the question, 3 projects. We got Haslet Parkway, the improvements to 156, and now they're talking about the grade separation at the tracks and how that would affect the other 2 projects. And it just, begs these questions that just seem to come out of blue here, and we hadn't heard anything about it.
I understand what you're saying. We have now, not on that end of the project, although there would be operating within Haslet, I believe we would have some say. And again, that is local. I think without Haslet approval, 156 is different. That's a state highway. They operate within their own right of way. Haslet Parkway and Avondale Haslet is not a state highway. So they would have to get city input, even if they did not seek city funding, on what that would look like. On the other end of the project, we have a memorandum of understanding with both TxDOT and COG that if they make any attempts to change the configuration at 156, that the city will be notified and available to participate in any of those meetings and input. Whether that's direct connects or anything else, we memorialized with an agreement that we have a seat at that table on anything they'd like to do within the city of Haslet. So we're watching it. I get that, again, that happened very quickly. There have been discussions for a long time about trying to grade separate, how it impacts the schools and just traffic in general. But that last little bit you were talking about, that came out very late April. I was in a partial meeting, and I'm still looking for information as well.
So just, we got Matt Krause involved and Michael Morris, and they make the statement, this will be a multi-year process, that this group is committed to seeing the work done. So it seems like the ball's rolling on their side, or maybe this is just a puff piece. I don't know, but makes us wonder.
I would imagine our former mayor was very involved. I imagine our new mayor will be very involved in any of those discussions for the benefit of Haslet. Staff will be there, but if it's Matt Krause and those people, that's a little bit above our pay grade. But again, we'll be available to assist. But I imagine Mayor Halsey will be involved in those discussions as well to ensure that the city of Haslet is taken care of.
Right. Okay, well, thanks. I'll send you a copy of this newsletter.
Thank you. Lots of activity as far as calls on the Intermodal Commerce Park. That one is apparently a little bit, I think I told y'all this last time, built to a higher standard. So we're actually seeing people calling about food processing. They get a little twitchy when they see our current water rates. But we're seeing a lot of activity. So I'm very confident that not only will the TERS fund, that we'll continue to see some growth in the right areas that have already been approved, even though we're not chasing that along I-35 as far as logistics. The calls are starting, the roads are under construction, and that's always, I've told y'all for 2 years now, when people see the dirt turning, they know it's real. And so that's when they're ready to start investing, or at least looking at the timeline so that they can land when the road opens so they don't have capital stranded. So hopefully we'll see some new projects coming our way shortly. And that's all I have, unless you have questions.
This is Bernard. I have one for Thad.
Yes, sir.
Thad, what's that building going up on Harmon Road across from the concrete plant? It's real tall steel structure.
That is in the ETJ where we have no zoning authority, and that is a permanent fireworks stand, if you will. It's a fireworks retail center. I know that I think Jim Markson and Paul Wallach have both seen that, at least what is available on that, and that was actually part of a call last night. So it's fireworks.
Okay, I was just curious. I couldn't imagine why the building was that tall.
And that I do not know. I am not neither engineer nor in the fireworks business, sir, but I
understand. Thank you.
Any other questions under 12.2? All right, then let's move on to 13. Thad, I believe you had mentioned to me there was not an executive session, but on the agenda there's a 13-A. So, I mean, we're not doing an executive session.
No, sir, we were leaving that as, and we may just pull it off and put it on as necessary. Y'all will need to see, like council does, once proposals come in for right-of-way purchases, council will approve that, but I'd like to bring it back to y'all as well to see the funding that's going out the door before we close on those. So that's kind of why that's left on there, because we never know when those are going to come in as we're starting to push into that part of the project. But we do not have a need for that today. So see, even though it was a huge agenda, we're here right at an hour. Look at that.
Okay, well, there's 14, then no need for 14. Item 15, consider an act regarding items to be placed on the next agenda. Anything?
I do not have anything specific.
Okay, then item number 16, then adjourn at 12:26.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you very much.
Hey, appreciate it. Thanks.
Thank you. Bye-bye.